I have a QNAP NAS with model number TS-453 Pro, and the issue we're experiencing is that it says system booting. It's been saying that for about 15 to 20 minutes, and it's not loading past that. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Nick. I started Nick's Electronics Repair over a decade ago, and since then we've fixed over 26,000 devices. Today, I'm going to be showing you exactly how we diagnose and fix this NAS. First thing we're going to do is open it up, so let's unplug it. We're going to remove the 3 screws on the back, and now we should be able to slide the cover off. And I can already tell that the customer has already opened this unit, and the reason I know that is because we don't have normal RAM sticks. These are aftermarket, but that's okay. That shouldn't affect our ability to fix this. We'll go ahead and remove some of the other screws and free up the motherboard. For this one, we do have to remove the front cover so that we can remove this little hidden screw here. And actually, before we get too far into the disassembly and unscrewing process, I'm going to remove a couple of the connectors. Now, commonly what we see with this motherboard are issues with the processor failing due to a clock issue. If we take a close look right here, we have a connector that is labeled LPC-CN1. Often, to fix a no boot issue, we need to install a 100 ohm resistor between pin 1 and 8 of this LPC connector. Now, obviously, we don't have a connector in that spot. It's empty, so we're going to go ahead and feed the resistor through the holes. Before we begin the repair process, I do want to let you know that this resistor fix won't actually fix this specific motherboard, but it does and will fix most of these. The reason I say that is because I did notice a little bit of an odd symptom that I have not told you about, but we'll do some further troubleshooting after we do the resistor install. First thing we're going to do is add some solder to our joint for pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it does seem like pin 8 is giving us a little bit of a hard time getting good flow. So I'm not going to clear up the solder hole. What I'm going to do is just melt it, and we're going to feed the resistor through as it's molten. And here we are, the resistor is locked in. Let's do the same thing on pin 8. And this pin 8 is, like I said, giving us a little bit more of a hard time. Okay, it looks like we're still able to feed it through. Okay, what we'll do next is I just flip the board over. We're gonna go ahead and melt it from this side and pull it through some more. We'll do the same thing with pin 1. And again with pin 8. Okay, we're going to cut the leads off. Now my joints don't look very good right now, so we're going to add a little flux and just touch that up. Okay, that looks a heck of a lot better. All right, we can do a little cleanup, get rid of some of that extra flux we added. Okay, and that is our final product. Now for testing purposes, we are going to test it outside of the unit to make it a little easier. And I'm just going to plug in the fan just to make sure that it's still spinning. Obviously it's not going to do anything. Let's see, let's plug in our power supply. Fan's spinning. We got a blue light to flash for a quick second. Let's let it sit for just a few minutes and we'll reconvene once it's booted in or not booted in and do some further diagnostics. All right, the unit has been on for some time. It still has not booted in, so we're going to do some further diagnostics. And the thing I wanted to show you that I haven't told you about is if we look at the Ethernet port, let me zoom in a little bit. One of them has a light on, but only one of the lights is on one of the ports. So that was a little suspicious and made me want to investigate further. So I brought my thermal camera. This is a Uni-T Pro, model number UTI260B. And when I take a look at it, I am noticing that the Ethernet controller chip has a bit of a hot spot. We're seeing about 53 degrees, and there are actually 2 more on the back side. We flip this over and we look here. These are even hotter at 58 degrees and rising, 59. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and unplug it. Now we do expect those chips to get warm, but I don't expect them to be getting that warm, especially because they're not in use right now. So we're first gonna take a look at these 2 chips on the back, since those are the ones that we're getting the hottest. And I have my multimeter in continuity mode, which means that when I have a short, I get a beep sound. And let's see. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some comparison measurements between the one on the right and the one on the left. So one of the things I like to do is we're going to do some checks on the capacitors around the chip. So we have 2 up here, and we're not getting any beeps. Compared to these, we're also not getting any beeps. Okay. This capacitor, no beep, that means no short. No beep, no short. What about these smaller ones? Nope, no beep, no shorts. Okay. What about these controllers down here? No beep, no beep, no beep, no beep, no beep. Oh, did we get a beep? Nope, I just slipped. This one does have a short, however, but this one does not. Yeah, we have a short. So right here, actually, if we flip it over, that is the exact back of this IC on the front side, actually. So I thought the back IC was bad, but it looks like we found a short on this one. So if we flip it over, these 2 ICs which are on the back, they connect to a lot of the components on the front here. So we'll do the same check. Do we have a short? No. And we do over here. So based off what I'm finding, it seems like this IC chip over here on the inside of the board and this one over here, again on the inside of the board, both are shorted. And you know what? I'm just doing some more checks and I'm noticing that all these capacitors here are shorted. Every single one of them, including these big caps. This one is not. No short, no short. Oops. No short, no short. Which tells me that this IC chip does not have a short. However, when I'm doing... However, over here, I'm also getting a short, but I'm not getting a short here, here, or here. That still tells me that I think that this one is shorted. All right, so I'm thinking that what we're gonna do here is actually just replace all 4. It is likely or possible that this last 4th one that I'm not finding a short on still is defective or has partial damage, is just not fully failed yet. So to be safe, we are going to replace all 4. We're going to want to use our hot air and definitely some flux. And we're going to do the first one on camera and the rest we'll do off screen because it's going to be more of the same. Okay, it looks like we're getting close to our melting point, but the chip is not coming off. Okay, we'll hang out for a little longer. I don't want to hang out on this chip for too long with this hot air. Don't want to damage the board. Okay. That was actually longer than I wanted to. So sometimes what can happen is when we have a power surge or lightning strike that goes through and hits one of these devices, it will travel through the Ethernet port and then will hit that Ethernet chip, frying it. I've seen it where the bottom pad, the grounding pad on those chips gets more or less fused to the board. That could be what's going on here. We're gonna add a little bit more flux. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and try a second time, so I'm turning my hot air back on. It's also possible I did have my fume extractor a little too close to the area I'm working on. Since this is convection, it could have been removing too much of the heat. There we go. Oops. Okay, there it is. Did I damage or push anything? Okay, I was just doing a quick visual check right now to make sure that none of the components next to the chip got knocked over from me shoving that chip to the right, and it looks like we're okay. So maybe I just didn't use enough hot air for long enough the first time around, or perhaps just having it go through a second cycle was enough to preheat. Maybe I should have done some preheating. All right, it looks like we have a clean surface to work on now. Of course, we're gonna wanna remove all of that flux. I'm gonna put hopefully a little bead of solder paste here. I say hopefully. So often too much comes out. All right, that looks pretty good actually. This is our replacement chip, which of course I did not center properly. And I'm just pressing it down a little bit. Okay. Now the alignment doesn't have to technically be perfect right now, and that's because we can always adjust it later. But we're gonna go ahead and use our hot air to install this replacement chip. Once the ground pad is soldered down, then we'll go ahead and solder down the pins on the side. We're gonna let the board cool down, the chip cool down, and in about 20-30 seconds, we'll give it a quick little shove, see if the chip is properly soldered down. If it is, then we'll go ahead and start soldering the side pins. I think that's been long enough. Give it a quick little shove. Yep, the whole board is moving. So that means we have it properly soldered down. Adding a little flux everywhere. The iron tip I'm using is probably a little bigger than I want, but we're gonna make it work. Yep, that's why. All right, I just scooped up that capacitor. All right, let's rotate that. All right, that looks pretty good to me. Let's fix that capacitor I knocked off. Luckily, it's a pretty big one, so it should be a little easier to fix. So first things first, let's remove this huge blob. That's better. All right, and we're gonna cheat because why not? The reason I say we're gonna cheat is because we do need to, or I want to at least, reflow the large chip, the Ethernet processor controller chip that we just installed. And we're gonna use the hot air to also at the same time reflow this capacitor back into place. Okay, the capacitor is soldered back in. And I'm gonna, whoops, let's do this all on screen if possible. And I'm just putting a little bit of physical pressure down on the chip to really ensure that that bottom pad is properly making contact. It looks like everything is cooling down. I'm seeing the solder change color from a very shiny to more dull look. That indicates that the solder is going from that molten state to solid state. I guess liquid state. Okay, and that's probably long enough. Let's go ahead and clean it all up. Remove all the flux. All right, that looks a heck of a lot better. All right, and then as I said, we'll do the rest off camera and we'll reconvene once all 4 chips are replaced. All right, we have finished installing all 4 of the controller chips for the Ethernets. Again, we're in continuity mode with the multimeter, so when we have a beep, that means we have a short. And if I recall, let's see, we had several capacitors here that were shorted, and we get no beep, no beep, no beep, no beep. Let's check these guys. No beep, no beep, no beep, no beep, no beep. Let's flip the board over. Let's see what we get here. And I definitely recall we had several over here beeping, and we do not get those beeps. Oh. Nope, no beep, no beep, and no beep. Okay. It looks like we did get rid of all the shorts. So we're gonna go ahead and power the unit back on and see if we can get it to initialize. All right, so again, we're gonna go ahead and just partially connect it to the unit. All right, same thing. Let's plug it in. Let's see what we got. All right, it's turning on. Now let's take a look. Now, if you recall over here, one of the lights on the Ethernet ports was lighting up, and now they are not. So to me, it sounds like we've already made some progress, but we won't know for sure until the unit fully boots in. Oh, and you know what? Actually, this is different. Yep, it just beeped. This light is flashing, so this is already way better than before. This DOM light was not flashing originally, ever. We had just that original quick flash the moment I plugged it in, but then never again. Right now we just saw it flashing for quite a bit, and then it had the beep sound from the motherboard indicating that it is initializing. Now I'm a little bit impatient, so what we're gonna do, actually immediately going to connect one of the Ethernet ports, and I want to see if we can detect it on the network before we even put everything back together. Let's see, what do we have here? Loading driver, please wait. All right, so it's not going to connect to the network quite yet. We're still loading drivers, and my lights on the Ethernet port are not flashing yet. They will be in just a minute once the unit fully boots in. All right, and we just did a check, and it looks like we are seeing our unit here. Now, it is missing the 4 from the 453, and that's because we don't have the backplane plugged in. Okay, now we have it pulled up on the browser. We'll do the smart install. Okay, and it shouldn't allow us to make it further than this because we don't have any drives. Okay, cool. But this does confirm that at least our ports are working. The unit is fully booting. So let's put it all back together and then we'll check the rest of the ports. I just plugged in our Ethernet into the bottom left port. We have our lights, and it does look like it is still connecting here. We're gonna do the bottom right port. And we have our lights. We're gonna do a quick refresh, see if we can still find the NAS on the network. No results found. Let's wait a second. Okay, and we are finding it. Now, this top one, the lights are not coming on. Okay, it looks like one of our ports is not working. I'm gonna refresh one more time. Okay, so that port is not working. Let's try our last one over here. Let's see what we get. And again, we don't have any lights. Let's refresh anyways and see if we can get it to show up on the network. Okay, it looks like it is showing up on the network. So even though our lights are not on, it is showing up. Let's try one last time again, right over here for this one. So it does look like, indeed, we're not finding anything on this last port. This does conclude our repairs. We have a somewhat successful partial repair since we've only gotten 3 of the 4 Ethernet ports working again. We did discuss it with the customer and they are okay with that. So we'll go ahead and send it back as is. If you have a QNAP unit that you would like for us to fix, we do offer flat rate services for those. They're available on our website, and of course they come with a 1-year warranty. Links to our website will be in the description down below. Otherwise, if you found the video helpful or useful, leave us a like, subscribe for more content, and thank you for watching.